Football is a game of moments. Moments that define careers. Moments that are remembered for years to come. But for every glorious moment, there are moments that are, well, the opposite. In this video, we're counting down those games where the terrible moments took over and almost single-handedly tarnished the player's reputation. These are the top 10 worst individual performances of all time. Number 10. Harry Maguire versus Spurs. Look, he's been through a lot, but he's really not good. As if a list of terrible individual displays could be complete without the great United captain, a fact that becomes more and more concerning by the day. Truth is, I could have chosen a host of games here, but this one really stands out in the memory. The game started as a United game usually starts. Nandez scores a penalty against a run of play, before in a moment of sheer bewilderment, Big Harold let Endomel equalise with a comedy of errors. Maguire, seemingly lost, decided to head the ball right back into harm's way, and as Luke Shaw prepared to save the day, Maguire cried out, "Don't you dare, Luke," and pulled him to the ground. They went on to lose the game 6-1, with Harry playing a starring role in almost every goal. Another terrible day at the office for a man once described by Rafael van der Vaart as a Sunday League player. And that might just be a compliment. Number 9. Emmanuel Eboue versus Wigan. Is there anything worse than being subbed on and then subbed off again in the same game? Eboue experienced this ultimate humiliation in a 2008 game against Wigan. He looked like he just stumbled out of a 3-day bender and straight onto the pitch at the Emirates. Every pass misplaced, every touch made Lukaku look like Iniesta, with the highlight surely being tackling his own teammate before immediately giving the ball to a Wigan player. When Eboue was eventually subbed off, there was a massive cheer from his own fans. Maybe not the nicest reaction, but seriously, go and watch this display and tell me it's unjust. On the plus side, Arsenal did escape with a 1-0 win. However, this had absolutely nothing to do with Eboue, who was described by Arsene Wenger after the game as a danger to his own team. Number 8. David Luiz versus Germany. Look, we all know how the game went, but that was not all down to Germany's brilliance. Brazil went into the game without their captain and best player in Thiago Silva and Neymar, with Luiz being given the armband for the game. He then proceeded to put in one of the most calamitous 90 minutes of defending that the country had ever seen, chipping 7 goals to the efficient Germans and embarrassing himself and his entire nation in the process. Thiago Silva was evidently the leader of the back line, and in his absence this task was set to David Luiz, which is a bit like what I'd imagined would happen if you took Lewis Hamilton out of his Formula 1 car and replaced him with a sandwich. Luiz, not only incapable of leading a line, proceeded to run around aimlessly, looking like he'd never seen or been on a pitch before, with his partner Dante not offering any support at all. Number 7. Bakayoko versus Watford. It's not often that one player's display costs a manager his job, but if there is an example of this, it has to be this one. Going to the star-studded Monaco side of 2017 and coming back with Bakayoko should incur a prison sentence, and less than a year later, a string of truly terrible displays from the Frenchman had left his time at Chelsea in jeopardy. The worst of which coming when Chelsea went away to Watford. Bakayoko lost the ball a total of 7 times in the match, which doesn't seem that bad until you realise he'd only lasted 30 minutes on the pitch, with 2 yellows within 5 minutes of each other, putting the Frenchman, his teammates and his fans out of their misery. Cue the Chelsea fans chanting, "You're and this stands out as an all-time terrible Premier League display. Number 6. Stevie G versus United. Having announced he'd be leaving Liverpool not long before, at the end of the season, Gerrard hoped to go out with a bang against bitter rivals Man United. And to some degree, he did. Gerrard was subbed on at half-time, immediately going in with a thunderous tackle to a rapturous ovation from Anfield, before proceeding to stamp on Ander Herrera and be given his marching orders. He lasted 38 seconds in a 2-1 defeat at Anfield. Fortunately, his final Premier League appearance would prove to be a lot more successful. A 6-1 defeat at Stoke. He did score the goal though, so, there's that. Number 5. Jonathan Woodgate versus Bilbao. An injury-hit first year left Madrid fans prying for the debut of Jon Woodgate. What would follow, however, was a performance so bad it would go on to be widely known as the worst debut of all time. The Englishman headed home into his own net in the first half before being given his marching orders for 2 bookings midway through the second. He did, however, receive a standing ovation as he left the pitch, an act which resembled more of a "please don't hurt yourself tonight, John," rather than any sort of real appreciation. Unsurprisingly, his Madrid career would never recover, and he would go on to be voted the worst signing of the 21st century in a poll conducted by Spanish paper Marca. Number 4. Karius versus Real Madrid. Arguably the most famous of every entry on this list involves Karius, who is to goalkeeping what drinking a bottle of olive oil is to a diet. Liverpool went into this 2018 Champions League final as the underdog against a Madrid team coming off back-to-back Champions League victories, and they started okay. That is until Karius inexplicably launched the ball off the foot of Benzema straight into the net, before fumbling Gareth Bale's speculative long-range effort and gifting Madrid their 3rd Champions League in a row. Rumours of a concussion were not enough to save the German, as he would never play for the club ever again. Number 3, Stan van den Bijs versus Anderlecht. From the most well-known to the least well-known entry in this list, and this occurred in a Belgian Super League game in 1995 in a top-of-the-table clash between German Lekeren and Anderlecht, with Anderlecht ending 3-2 winners. That is despite not scoring a single goal in the game themselves. Step right up Stan, who converted the ball into his own net a whopping 3 times, completely undoing his team's hard work. Now perhaps not so coincidentally, the club are now dissolved, but will always be remembered for poor Stan's horror hat-trick. Number 2, Jon Walters versus Chelsea. Those who say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger have clearly never watched Jon Walters versus Chelsea back in 2013. The Irish striker would score not 1, but 2 own goals within 17 second-half minutes in a 4-0 loss to the Blues, which perhaps rather comically was also his landmark 100th appearance in the Premier League. The first, a bullet header sailing past Begovic, before Walters would nod home a second soon after. He did however win a late penalty, with his side already 4-0 down, which he would, of course, go on to crash off the bar, compiling a truly miserable day for the forward. Honourable mention, Ali Dia versus Leeds. Now technically, this may be the worst display of all time, however, there is the added caveat that Dia was not technically a professional footballer, having conned his way into the Southampton side, claiming to be the cousin of George Weah. The story goes that Graham Souness was tricked into signing the Senegalese forward on a 1-month contract, based off a mysterious phone call he'd received from the great Weah. 2 minutes into his debut, it became glaringly obvious that he was no footballer at all, after replacing the club's greatest ever player Matt Le Tissier, who would later describe Dia as not very good, Bambi on ice, and hopeless. He would not see out the game, being subbed back off after 53 minutes, never ever to be seen again. On a pitch, I mean. And number 1, Martin Palermo versus Colombia. Injury time. South America's Footballer of the Year, 25-year-old striker Martin Palermo places the ball on the penalty spot, puffs out his cheeks, and prepares to earn his place in football folklore. Not to mention the Guinness World Records. Now he went to start the game, and Argentina are full of confidence after a resounding win against Ecuador in the first game of the Copa America. Palermo grabbing a brace. This game, however, would prove very different. 5 minutes in, Palermo steps up for the first of many penalty attempts, smacking the bar on its way out the pitch. 0 for 1. 75 minutes now gone and Argentina are awarded another penalty. With Palermo desperate to make amends, he steps up again, and again the ball sails out of play, not even hitting the bar this time. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Palermo would hit rock bottom, but unfortunately there were further depths to plummet. We are now in injury time and Argentina are awarded yet another penalty, with the Boca Juniors forward rather incredibly being allowed to step up again, with this one at least hitting the target, yet being easily saved, completing the most miserable of days for the striker as his country succumbed to a 3-0 loss to Colombia. Remarkably, and this is my favourite part of this story, he wasn't the only player to miss a penalty that day for his side, with Argentina missing 2 more penalties throughout the game, leaving them quite ridiculously 0 for 5 from the spot. It does not get worse than that. And that's our list. What terrible performance stands out to you? Did we miss your personal favourite? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, or you'll miss 5 penalties in your next Ultimate Team game. And remember, the next time you're having a bad day, at least it won't be remembered quite like these.